Hi everyone, welcome to this first chapter of RICS of Construction Innovation. So we're going to have it's a bit of a introduction to the whole book. So this chapter is quite important to get a grasp of how everything works, and you will see a lot of the items is actually summarized in this chapter. So quite an important chapter to have a look at. So basically in this chapter, there's a couple of innovation and concepts that is explained. It firstly looks at the impulses of innovation. So one always wants to be as efficient as possible. So if you want to do something, you want to have systems in place, and from the one project, you want to go and improve on your next project. So it's the things that's basically discussed in the chapter. Then one wants to be innovative because you want to have a competitive advantage through new novel innovation. So the main thing is you want to have a competitive edge over your peers and competition and so on. So you always have to have the balance between whether spending time on new innovation towards actually implementing systems that's already in place that already works. For instance, lots of time is spent on making new construction methods work, for instance lightweight steel, etc. But it's fine if you get the grasp of it, but it's still something new that you need to learn how to use. Whereas if you've been building with brick and mortar for how many years, it might even be better to just go that route because you know how it works. You can easily mount a geyser on a brick and mortar wall instead of trying to reinforce and design a specific wall where the geyser is going to be mounted. So it's always good to find a balance and understanding of how it works. You always have something that you pay or in time wise or so whenever implementing new innovations. Okay, so then it talks about realization. Innovation is difficult, or realizing the innovation isn't that simple as one would think. It is outside the routine usually, so it is a bit of a disruptor. So that's the one thing. It's in the environment tends to resist. Usually, if you've been on a design team, also you will see that. There's always conflict because yes, you might be ready to do the measurement or quantification or pricing in a certain way, but then for instance the architect may come and they not really up to standard with regard to the design process, working on ArchiCAD or so, or they might be up to a point where they can do the 3D models, but they cannot produce data behind the model, that type of thing. Okay, so and then a linear approach is not given and follow path. The linear approach is not a given and follow pathway of ambiguity and discontinuity. So basically, perceptions and is a very big part of the whole innovation process. Okay, concepts and controversies. So we're going to look at certain examples from all over the world. In the UK, it has been found that 2/3 of construction companies doesn't innovate. Okay, saying that is the industry might innovate, but specific companies isn't innovating. Lots of support for the above statement can be found in quality and safety problems, that's on site, bankruptcies, late and over budget projects, practices that have remained unchanged for long times, etc. etc. However, new technologies such as materials, business models, new designs, etc. All contribute to innovative ways of looking at things. Then innovation through the professional team is often not picked up. For instance, maybe you're working on a project where the design team and contractor actually did quite innovative ways of implementing and overcoming challenges, but then usually that team breaks up and then they go in their separate ways. So some of the information just gets lost after that. Okay, but the short and the long of it is it remains a complex arena because you have all these different role players who's enacting on each other and getting information from each other, and the main thing is you're always working against deadlines and so on. So instead of trying to do it as efficiently as possible, what happens most of the time, you just want to get it off of your table, and okay, I'll try and innovate on the next project, for instance. That happens quite often. Okay, then just to have a bit of perspective, here's a nice video that I just posted on here. Unfortunately, I'm not going to play the whole video now during this section. It's about 10-minute video, so I want to try and save you data, but it's something that you need to go through. So I've pasted the link here, so you can just copy and paste this link into your browser to view this video. It's a video on a BIM project that was implemented in Oxford, and where they actually went through the processes, and it's very important to go through that, because I will assess you guys on these videos that I'm going to post during this module and the semester. So it's very important that you go through these videos. Okay. So just to build on the perspective, is value creation is the main aim rather than production. So that's something that you need to look at. Yes, production is maybe the goal initially when you're trying to get to innovative ways of doing construction, but then what it actually creates is it creates value. So for instance, if you look at a car manufacturing plant, if you can get the production right and get that as efficient as possible, you can actually spend more time on the value of the brand, and the value is the thing that you actually sell to your customer. So that is the spin-off and the contradiction between production and value creation. It is in our context, innovation is changes is made to establish ways of creating value. So you have your established ways of doing things, and you have your novel ways or your new way of doing things. So the main thing is it's always a spin-off between these two, and if you can get a nice balance between the two, it's always nice. Okay, so economic gains drives innovation to a large extent. Then the complexity of buildings, operations, and the design makes investment in innovation not an easy decision. Okay, because you don't want to try something new, like a new design program. If you're looking at, for instance, if you're a structural engineer, you don't want to try a new design program on a new sensitive building that you're working on. You will rather stick with that you understand and which you've used quite often. Then the building has to be seen as a living ecology. Very important thing is a building keeps on evolving over time after it's built. Like plants grow, people come in, people go out. It's or the layout is changed and so on. So that's basically what they're thinking of here. Is that's a bit of a novel way of thinking of it. Usually we are involved with the ones of build of it and the first design of it. But if you think a little bit longer about the building, for instance, putting in some additional sleeves for possible future access control to your building, that might actually create or be a lot of value creation that you create in doing that. Okay. And it also saves money for the later on tenant that might be occupying a building. So you can always think about things like that. So innovation is thus not easily transferred to new project teams. And I spoke about that earlier on, where after a project, the project team is disseminated, and then the information is also scattered all over. Okay, but it always also creates a possibility of getting new people in on a project and getting new innovation into your projects. Okay, can innovation be planned or managed? That is the question. Okay, so we're going to look at a little bit about on that. Then what we're going to look at also during this this module is grassroots innovation versus state-imposed regulations. So where does the grassroots of innovation lay, and where does regulations come into? Where does regulations actually prevent regulations prevent innovation? So we're going to look a little bit about on that. So innovation is driven forward through new interfaces between actors and resources. Yeah, that's basically what is your client willing to pay for a new innovative way of constructing it. A nice client would be someone that has excess money and wants to rather spend than pay taxes, or get a tax incentive so they can maybe play around with a few things. For instance, putting in new what do you call it, solar type of tint or self-tinting glasses, or windows, or so, automated facades and that type of thing, some nice tech installations and so on. The client plays an important role in innovation, like I just said. Then chapters 4 and 9 is mostly concerned with the actors and the role players. So that's going to be very important chapters that we're going to look at. And then innovation happens through diffusion. A very big concept that we're going to look at. And then we're going to look at BIM. BIM is also starting to play a role in innovation. The main thing about BIM is you can prototype more. So it gives you the opportunity to prototype your design before actually implementing it. So that's the big spin-off and the big advantage of BIM, is that everyone can play around with the design before it's actually built. When in the past any design had to go back to the draftsman and had to be redrawn and so on, and you couldn't, for instance, play around with the shadows of nearby buildings and so on. With BIM these days, it's very nice to actually do a design, see how it's going to, for instance, cast a shadow over a neighboring building, or vice versa, a neighboring building casting a shadow over this new design. So just moving it maybe 1 degree towards the side may have a major effect on the whole design. So BIM is very nice in that aspect. And specifically, design, build, and construction manager and general contractor assist in innovation in contrast to public-private partnerships. So more or less here we're going to look at contracts, which is more conducive to innovation than other contracts. So we're going to explore on what the influences there of that is. And finally, the book focuses on the environment and regulations. So we're going to touch on that and the production line. For instance, for where material is mined, where it's processed, and where it's actually manufactured to be installed. So we're going to look at that life cycle a little, and how innovation actually has a big influence on this. Like, for instance, new innovative research has shown that wood still stays the most green building material that you can find, but it's not always available in all the places and so on. So we're going to look at items like that. And that's more or less chapter 1. So that gives us a bit of an overview of what we're going to handle. And yeah, up to we'll speak in the next lecture again. Thanks. Bye.